Because of that gap, you find that younger women, they fear contesting because they have seen what has been happening to their predecessors, and they say, oh, I don't want to go through that. So those are things they were sharing with us.
As more women take on leadership roles, gender-based violence is also on the rise.
This is Pollicy Fund.
Welcome back to Resist, Persist and Reimagine, the Pollicy Fund podcast where we explore the voices, strategies and stories behind women's political leaderships across the global south. In this episode, we are featuring an interview with Bonnita Nyamwire, the research director in Pollicy, an African organization that works at the intersection of data, design and technology, in charge of producing better data to understand the barriers that women face to participate and occupy higher-ranked roles in the governments, political parties and congresses throughout the continent.
So my name is Bonnita Nyamwire and I work for Pollicy as Director of Research, so I lead the research team. Pollicy is LLICY. It's an acronym that stands for poll, and use poll as in gather information and use it to influence policy change. So influencing policy change can be through advocacy, can be through awareness raising, can be through capacity building, can be through so many ways. So Pollicy is based in Kampala in Uganda, and so we work at the intersection of data, design and technology for women and girls across the African continent.
Bonnita's work is deeply focused on the impact of digital violence on women when they occupy or have a prominent role in their country's public life. This type of violence is called Technology Facilitated Gender-Based Violence, or TFGBV. In this interview, the investigator shares with us the conclusions of the work that Pollicy is conducting in the region and her impressions and concerns about the support and push that women really need to occupy crucial spaces in politics. Let's get started.
So maybe my journey is mainly through research. So because of the work that we do on digital technology for women and girls, so it is through research, that my research work, that I get connected to politics. Because of investigating, if I can use that word, or studying that area, and this is with women in politics at different levels. So the work that we have done as Pollicy in our research study in Uganda in 2021, following the 2021 general elections, and then also in Kenya in I think 2022 in their general elections, to understand the landscape of TFGBV among women in politics, because previously 2020 we had done the very first study on TFGBV across 5 African countries, that's Uganda, Kenya, Senegal, Ethiopia and South Africa, to understand the experiences of women who use internet. So we got to find out, to discover a lot of things, and some of the key things were women, yes, they use the internet, but also they have challenges. Most of them, they do not have digital literacy, so there was need for capacity building as a call to action. Then we also understand that yes, all women, most of them in those countries, they are affected by TFGBV. At that time, it was online gender-based violence, but most of them didn't even know that, oh, they are experiencing this kind of violence. They didn't know how to describe it, but they would describe scenarios. And then most of them were experiencing TFGBV. You'd find that the prevalence is 32%, 28%, 33%. But also a very key thing that we noted was that there are categories of women that are more affected than the others. So these were women in politics, women in the media, women human rights defenders and activists. And it's because of the work that they do. Women politicians, they interact with constituents, they interact with a lot of other stakeholders daily. Women in the media, the same thing. She's on TV, she's online looking for news, so they interact again physically, but also online. The same applies to women human rights defenders. You know, they are interacting with different stakeholders on different platforms. They are advancing and amplifying voices of women, actually women human rights defenders and women politicians, advancing the gender equality, discourse, and they experience a lot of backlash both online and offline. And so for us as Pollicy, discovering that those categories are significantly affected, we moved ahead to now study them, each one of them. So in our next research, we actually looked at those three categories: women human rights defenders, women in the media, and women politicians, understanding TFGBV. That was in Senegal, in Zambia, and in Uganda and DRC, Democratic Republic of Congo. Yes, so all these reports I'm talking about, they are available on our website, www.pollicy.org.
Persist, Persist and Reimagine. Target 5.5 of the Sustainable Development Goals considers that by 2030, women should hold 50% of the seats in national parliaments and local governments. But the numbers show that in Africa, this goal is far from becoming reality. According to the African Barometer 2024 report, in 2024, women representation in African parliaments was only 26%, by itself a low number. But what is most worrying is that this number represents only a 1% increase since 2021. At this rate, it will take until 2100 for African countries to achieve gender parity in their parliaments, states the report. This data is consistent with Bonnita's view of the region, one in which misogyny and gender roles hinder the political participation of African women.
So the numbers, women representation in these countries, of course, it is increasing. However, the women, there's still gender stereotypes that affect women representation, first of all. So representation begins from campaigns allowing a woman to stand and contest for a parliamentary seat or local government seat, and also the challenges begin from that end. For instance, there is a woman who shared while we disseminated our work. She said the husband would not allow her to go and campaign because he says, one, she's going to meet other men there. Secondly, she has to do her chores at home. And then when she goes on radio, he was like, oh, everybody will see you no, it was TV actually. I said, everybody will see you on TV, so you'll no longer be my wife. So you see, so he said, you either choose to go and be everybody's wife on TV, or you stay here and be my wife. And so she had to stop the business of going to TV and then do her campaigns offline, actually. So it begins from allowing this woman to contest, and then also to go and do campaigns. So the women, yes, the numbers are increasing, but they go through a lot of challenges. They experience a lot as they, contest for those positions, some of the things that I have talked about already. But also when they get those positions, and then also you find that they lack mentorship. They lack mentorship as they grow in their political positions, as they contest. So that is also an area that needs to be looked at, mentoring the young women to come into. Yes, there are partners who are mentoring them, like Akina Mama wa Africa. It does leadership training for young girls into political leadership, but there needs to be more other stakeholders to come on board and do that. So there is lack of that mentorship and building their confidence. And so because of that gap, you find that younger women, they fear contesting because they have seen what has been happening to their predecessors, and they say, oh, I don't want to go through that. So those are things they were sharing with us. When they see online, they see also offline, they're like, no, I don't want to be like so and so. I would rather just drop out of this or remain at the level where, because we have also seen that as one goes into higher levels of politics, the more backlash they experience. Yeah. So there are those gender stereotypes, and then there's also, of course, the systems that we operate in, there's also the misogyny, that also accompanies them. But also when they get those positions and go into leadership positions, either at, let's say, city mayor or member of parliament, so you'll find that most of them, again, they are shut down, I think, because of the way the system is made. So the patriarchy now, the patriarchal system issue comes in because of the way the system is. You find that, yes, she has gained entry, she's in parliament, she's at the city level, but again, not expressing herself, not, advancing the women agenda the way it should be.
This is Colmena Fund.
Bonnita shares with us her concern that men are still the ones being vocal and capturing the spotlight, and emphasizes the importance of continuous support and mentorship for women in such positions.
So they will sit and you'll see that it's the men who are coming out, they are presenting the bills, they are taking leave to go and look at this bill, and something like that. So that's also an area, and it's because, again, of the system and then the backlash, that women experience. I'll give an example of one woman in Uganda who used to be very vocal. She was a politician, and she used to really talk about issues of that time there was a lot of defilement and rape, and then she was saying, no, the men who are raping, and she said it on the floor of parliament, we are going to castrate them, But so many years after she left parliament, she told us that even after presenting that bill, that the bill should be, she said that fellow women would meet her in the restroom and say, what are you doing? Why can't you keep quiet? Men are going to kill you. So you see, so there is that fear because of the way the system is, that women have the inbuilt fear. But I believe it can go away with mentorship. It can go away with that continuous mentorship and like capacity building. So those are most of the challenges mainly. So the numbers are growing, but what are we getting from the numbers? We do not see the women on the floor of parliament presenting the bills and coming out strongly. Yes, there are some that they are presenting, but we would like to see them come out strongly, more than before. 2030 is not very far away from where we are to present what we have done on the sustainable development goals. I keep wondering and thinking, what are we going to present? I keep seeing that gender-based violence, again, like I was seeing on the news, that the prevalence has increased. It has gone high in Uganda, as high as 51%. So where are our women in parliament?
Persist, persist, and reimagine. It is in this context that Pollicy's work is crucial, from research to better understand what these women go through during public service and campaigns, to capacity building and mentorship, such as training in digital literacy and safety and security practices.
I will begin from the work that we have done as Pollicy. So we've done research, but we developed a program for women in politics to build their capacity on digital literacy skills, but also safety and security online. And we did this in Uganda, Tanzania, and Senegal. The first cohort, we had 20 women in Uganda, 20 women in Tanzania. There are so many women in politics. 20 is a small number. So, and that was small because of the funding. And then we did a second cohort and increased the number to 30. And also added the third country. But again, 30 is also still a small number. It would be bigger than that, but because of the funding. So those who are bringing resources to civil society organizations like Pollicy, I think it's what they need is like to increase on the fund, because when the fund is big, then our scope of work also increases. Instead of looking at one country, we can actually look at more countries, more than one. Or if our focus was one country, instead of having a small number, the scope of work, becomes bigger because the fund is also bigger, you see. And so many women were interested in joining the cohort, but we did not have enough resources, because every time, so during the training, we used to train them online. So training online, it means they have, and we're doing, because now we also wanted them to learn how to connect to the platforms, and we're using Zoom. So it meant we had to facilitate them with a fee to connect, to buy data bundles to be able to connect to the internet, So that's an expense already. But also we didn't stop at that. Because we wanted to continue with these women, and up to today we still have them. So we organize like meetings where we workshops, or if there is like a regional conference like Africa IGF, Internet Governance Forum, or anything to do with internet or data governance. So we grab that opportunity and we bring at least 3 women or 2, depending on the fund that we have, to come and speak in those conferences, to come and also interact with other women politicians in those conferences. But you find also, because of the limited fund, we are not able to bring more women, but it would be nice, because a global conference, for instance, like this one, it would be good when you have women coming from different parts of the country meeting, like here in the session that we had, sharing experiences, learning from each other, and something like that,
This is Pollicy Fund.
Nyamwire calls philanthropists to commit more resources to the programs civil organizations are implementing, but also invites them to sit with them and dialogue to understand what is needed to boost the work and make a more positive impact on the lives and careers of women.
So the philanthropists, the call to action for them is to actually look at the areas which these women, where these women need a lot of support, and bring them together. We've been talking about mentorship. How can we do mentorship for these women in politics? What is needed? So there's need to look at those areas. We are saying digital literacy. We are saying safety and security. So, and you see, for us, we focused on a small number at the lower level, but maybe also in the middle levels. So at different levels, women require training. So the funding usually is limited, so it limits also the scope of work. So I feel that philanthropists need to sit on a table with stakeholders who are doing this work, especially civil society. Academia mostly will do a research and end there, but civil society will do a research and then go on to even implement some programs for these women. So it is sitting with them and understanding what are these needs, and so they can fund some of those specific areas actually, to support these women to be resilient and remain in the political space.
Persist and Reimagine. This resilience and possibility of participation in political spaces, not only informal ones, means freedom for women and girls who at this moment do not live freely nor enjoy democracy, believes Bonnita.
I think democracy means freedom. Freedom to me, freedom of people to participate in political discourse, conversations, anything at any time, freely. They should be free. Is there a conversation on X? They should be able, everybody, men, women, girls, boys, they should be able to participate in that conversation freely, share their opinions, share their insights, their perspectives, Is it a rally that is going on? They should be able to participate freely. So freely, all people, women, men, they should be able. And in Africa, I think there's a limitation on women and girls to participate freely in democratic conversations, whether it is online, whether it is offline, whether it is in parliament, whether it is in small conversations at the grassroots level. You'll find that there's a limitation that women and girls experience, and so they are not free. They are unable to freely participate in democratic conversations, participate freely, again because of the patriarchal system and structures so that we live in as an African continent, but also globally. So that is the biggest hindrance,
This is Pollicy Fund.
And so, we have reached the end of our episode, one that leaves us with profound reflections on the work ahead to build a more equal world. If you found this episode meaningful, please subscribe, share, leave a review, or send it to someone who needs to hear it. You can learn more about our work at the Bonnita Fund by visiting our website or following us on social media. We'll be back soon with more voices from the frontlines on our podcast Resist, Persist and Reimagine. Thank you for listening and for standing with us in the fight for women's political power.
As more women take on leadership roles, gender-based violence is also on the rise.
This is Pollicy Fund.